Welcome back to the Deep Dive. We're here digging into the sources, giving you that shortcut so you feel instantly informed. Today, we are really getting into some serious literature. We're looking at the work of the Portuguese Nobel laureate, José Saramago, specifically his incredible 1982 novel, Memorial do Convento.
Right, which, many listeners might know better by its English title, Baltasar and Blimunda.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And it's a masterpiece, no doubt, but it's a lot. It's dense. So our mission today is really to unpack it a bit. We want to show you how Saramago isn't just writing historical fiction here.
No, not at all. He's doing something much more radical.
He's using myth, a kind of magic, and this really sharp irony to basically critique, maybe even overhaul, what we usually get fed as official history. We need to grasp how he mixes, verifiable historical facts with these amazing bits of magical realism and social commentary.
And to really get the weight of that critique, you have to picture the setting first. We're talking early 18th century Portugal. King Dom V is on the throne.
A time of huge contrasts, right?
Huge. You've got unbelievable wealth flooding in from Brazil gold, mostly funding these, frankly, insane royal projects, but at the same time, just crushing poverty for most people and looming over everything.
The Inquisition.
The Inquisition, the Holy Office, it wasn't just some historical footnote. It was a very real, very scary part of daily life, a tool for control.
And the big historical event anchoring the plot is the construction of the Palácio Nacional de Mafra. That's the convent in the Portuguese title. It's this gigantic, sprawling building project. And it wasn't really about piety, was it? It was more about a king's desperate promise.
A vow made out of ambition, really.
And the novel, it follows the ordinary people, the workers, basically sacrificed to build this thing. But the real heart of the story, I think, is this incredibly moving, kind of improbable love story between the main characters, Baltasar and Blimunda, and their connection to this totally fantastical project, building a flying machine.
Yeah, the Passarola, which is fascinating because Saramago just deliberately turns away from the usual historical focus, kings, generals, the big names. Instead, he grabs the people who never get mentioned in the history books, the marginalized, the injured veterans, the mystics, and he makes them the center. They're the real agents of change, or at least resistance.
Okay, let's unpack that a bit more, this idea of a trinity of resistance.
Yeah.
Because that feels central to the book's power. So first you've got Baltasar Setsasois, 7 sons.
Right.
He's a soldier back from the war, missing a hand. He really embodies the physical toll on the common people, doesn't he? He's the hands-on guy, the laborer, action.
He's the action, exactly. And then his partner, Blimunda Sete Luas, 7 Moons, she's kind of his opposite, but also his complement. She's amazing. She has the supernatural ability. When she hasn't eaten, she can actually see people's inner will.
See their will. What does that look like?
It appears as this sort of cloudy shape inside them. So she represents vision, insight, the mystical side of things. She sees the collective soul, almost.
Wow. Okay. Action and vision. And the third person connecting them is Padre Bartolomeu de Guzmão. Now, he was a real historical figure, wasn't he? Famous for trying to invent flying machines, including this Passarola.
That's right. He's the bridge. He connects the science, or what passed for science then, the big dream, the utopian idea, with a kind of social critique, too.
How so?
Well, he's a priest, technically part of the establishment, but his imagination is just too big for the church or the state. He wants to transcend the whole system. So you put them together, Baltasar's work, Blimunda's insight, and Bartolomeu's intellect. It's this little triangle pushing against the oppressive reality.
And that theme of sight or vision is crucial.
Absolutely crucial. Blimunda's power, seeing people's essence, it's directly contrasted with the willful blindness of the powerful. The king, the church officials, they only see the finished palace. They choose not to see the immense human suffering that's making it possible.
You see that blindness, or rather the punishment, for seeing differently so clearly in that early scene, the auto da fe.
Oh yeah, that scene is brutal.
It's this public spectacle of punishment, and Blimunda's own mother gets condemned. It just slams you right into the reality of the Inquisition's power. It shows immediately what happens if your vision, whether it's spiritual, political, whatever, goes against the grain.
Exactly, no room for dissent.
Okay, so let's shift focus to the actual thing being built at the Mafra Convent. It feels less like a building and more like, I don't know, a character, a monster, almost. The book is fundamentally about power versus the powerless, right? And this huge construction project is the ultimate symbol of that unchecked royal power.
Absolutely. And this is where Saramago really lands his punch against official history. Your standard history book praises the magnificent palace, maybe mentions the pious king who commissioned it.
Right, they achieved them.
Saramago just flips that completely. He spends pages and pages on the anonymous workers, the peasants dragged from their homes, the people whose names we'll never know, who are literally ground down building this thing. For Saramago, they are the story, the king and his monument. That's just the backdrop for their suffering and their lives.
And he makes that suffering so visceral. There's that incredible sequence describing the transport of one single giant stone for the convent.
The dome stone, yeah, it's epic.
It really is. It reads like something out of Homer, almost. Thousands of men, oxen, the sheer physical strain, people dying.
It's a brilliant narrative choice because it becomes this kind of anti-monument. That stone, which is probably a tiny footnote in the official records of King Juan X's reign. In Saramago's hands, it becomes this massive symbol, almost a tombstone for the collective pain of the entire nation under that kind of absolute rule. He's documenting the hidden political cost.
And that focus on the collective, on shared struggle, seems reflected in Baltasar and Blimunda's relationship too.
Definitely. Their connection is more than just love, though it is that too. It's fundamentally about solidarity. It's unconventional. Remember, Blimunda provides the fuel for their own project. She collects those wills from people, especially the dying, the immaterial spark.
While Baltasar is the one who can physically build things, the action, the practical skill.
Exactly. So their union itself is this small act of resistance, a pocket of humanity and shared purpose against the state's massive impersonal cruelty.
So if Mafra is the crushing weight of reality, then the Passarola, the flying machine they build with Padre Bartolomeo, that has to be the opposite, right? The escape.
It is. It's the dream of flight, literally. It symbolizes hope, the desire to rise above, to transcend the mud and misery of their lives, escaping the physical and social constraints of 18th century Portugal, getting away from the Inquisition, the king, everything.
But it's not simple, is it? There's a dark side to that dream, too. You mentioned Blimunda collects human wills to power it.
That's the crucial, tragic twist. The machine is fueled by the very essence, the spiritual energy of the people who are suffering and dying, many because of the Mafra project itself. So the dream of freedom is literally powered by the sacrifice of the oppressed.
Wow. So escape is paid for by the very suffering you're trying to escape.
Precisely. It's not some easy utopian fantasy. Saramago reminds us that dreams, especially big ones, have a cost. The Passarola is powered by the souls already crushed by Mafra, freedom born from sacrifice.
Okay, this is maybe a good point to talk about how Saramago tells this story, because his style is unique. It's part of the message.
Oh, absolutely. If you've never read him, it can be a bit disorienting at first.
Those sentences, they just go on and on, sometimes for pages, very little punctuation, almost breathless.
And the dialogue or lack of clear dialogue markers, he often doesn't use quotation marks. Character speech just sort of blends into the narrator's voice.
Yeah, why does he do that? You'd think it would be confusing not knowing exactly who is speaking when.
Well, I think it's a very deliberate choice. It's almost a political or philosophical statement about voice itself. By blending the voices, the narrator, the peasants, the priest, even the king, sometimes he breaks down the hierarchy.
So no single voice is automatically more important than another.
Exactly. It reinforces that idea of the collective, the anonymous mass he's so focused on. A peasant's observation carries the same narrative weight, flows in the same sentence as the narrator's ironic comment or a royal decree. It's democratic in a way.
That makes sense, and it connects to how the narrator keeps jumping in, right? With commentaries sometimes sounding very modern, pointing out the ironies or hypocrisies.
The narrator is definitely not neutral. It's an omniscient voice, but it's also deeply critical, often using anachronism and irony to undercut the pomp and power of the time. It's very anti-heroic.
So by weaving together the real historical figures, the king, the composer Scarlatti, who appears Padre Bartolomeo, with his fictional heroes like Baltasar and Blimunda.
He fundamentally questions the whole idea of a single authoritative historical narrative. By putting the fictional, powerless people right at the center, he forces you to see that history written only from the perspective of the powerful is incomplete. It's biased.
It makes you ask,
What?
What and who got left out of the official story?
Exactly.
Okay, so let's try to wrap this up. Our deep dive into Memorial do Convento, or Baltasar and Blimunda. What we've seen is Saramago using myth, this incredible idea of inner vision with Blimunda, a powerful love story, and this detailed focus on labor. all to challenge power structures.
And to celebrate the people history usually forgets, the ones sacrificed for the great monuments.
Yeah, it's ultimately a profound look at human dreams, the often terrible price of those dreams, and the need for some kind of sacrifice, maybe, to achieve anything beyond the ordinary.
I think Saramago gives us a new way to see. You look at a grand building like the Mafra Palace after reading this, and you don't just see architecture or royal history. You feel the weight of the stones. You imagine the people who moved them. You see the human cost.
The novel really invites you, the listener, to practice that kind of seeing, looking for the human will hidden beneath the official story.
Which leads us to a final thought, something maybe to chew on, drawing from Saramago's critique. How much has really changed? The novel implicitly asks us to look at our own monuments, our huge tech companies, our global supply chains, massive infrastructure projects today. Can we draw parallels? Who are the anonymous masses providing the labor, the wills that fuel our grand enterprises? Memorial do Convento challenges you to look beyond the headline, beyond the spectacle, and really see who and what is underneath.
Subscribe to the Timeless Tales podcast. Your stories, your time.